everybody. It's Sophie and Marco. Dish out on the movies. On the day of the solar eclipse.
Time for another Allison Mack movie. Yeah. Allison Mack April. This is called You. And it's not the TV show on Netflix that a lot of people like. It's the movie that literally nobody has heard of or even cares about. So this should be one of our more popular videos. Right?
Don't bother. We saw this on the day of the eclipse.
And we paid for it, too. That's what's even worse. Like, with most of the movies of the year so far, we haven't had to pay to suffer through them. We had to pay to suffer through this. $1.99. And I'd like my money back. Thank you very much. Right?
I don't know what to say. I watched the whole thing. It's basically a movie about nothing. There's just nothing happens. One of the main characters, I don't know what the main characters would be. It would be the husband and the wife, who are really a husband and wife in real life, Melora and Gildart. And you go, well, who's Melora and Gildart? Well, Melora is actually Trudy in Monk, Jan in The Office, and in this movie she was Miranda.
Yeah, and I just have to say, number one, Melora and Gildart sounds like the perfect name for if they made a complete reboot of the Addams Family, and they had to come up with new names for the main couple. You could do Melora and Gildart, and they're just a really effed up couple, and they kill people together or something.
Not in this movie.
Well, because it's such a strange pairing of names. I'm talking about in real life. And but number two.
Well, also he plays, is it Rawson or something? Radon. What is his name? I can't read what I wrote.
I don't know.
Well, it does that, but his real name is Gildart.
I struggled to get through this movie.
So did I.
It was like torture.
Yes, it was.
It started off, and I wrote down some lines too.
I'm glad you did.
There were some terrible lines, and immediately Jan from The Office, she's she's calling her daughter a yummy infant, which is really weird and cringeworthy. And then she says she went from that to a testing toddler, which is just even more cringeworthy because, I've never heard anyone say that before, ever.
What did she say?
A testing toddler.
Testing toddler.
Yeah, I thought at first she said testy toddler.
Oh.
But no, she said testing.
I don't know what... I've never heard that either.
A testing toddler.
I've never heard of that.
And then she turned into a defiant teenager. And it's I
don't know.
It's so gay.
Anyway, I think at one part of the movie, I did see Jan come out.
Really?
I felt like it was Jan.
When was that?
I don't know. I should have written it down, but it doesn't really matter. I don't want to refer this movie to anybody. It's just... it's not an ugly movie. It's just boring. Nothing happens. And also it goes all over the place. They go
editing.
Back and forth and back. And when I say back and forth, I mean between time jumps.
Yeah.
Time in the past, time in the front. Time in the past, time in the front.
Every couple of minutes.
And that almost... I kind of have a headache.
I can't think of a single movie where that has worked, too. Oppenheimer jumped around with the black and white and color, but it still made sense pretty much. And it's weird because, the husband in real life, he's done these fireside reading videos where he just sits in front of a fireplace and reads for 10 hours with his annoying accent, and it's funny because he's read all these classical books. And I can't think of one of the books that he's read on these fireside readings where every single page they jump around in time. because like that's not good. Like nobody likes that. That's terrible.
Well, it's just hard to follow. But since nothing happens, the thing that happens is they have a daughter, and she gets older. So that's what happens. She ages.
Yeah.
She goes back to being a toddler. She goes back to being a teenager. She goes back to being a toddler.
No, a testing toddler.
And she goes back to being a baby.
A yummy infant.
I mean, that's what happens when the time jumps. And then she meets somebody. And
he's French.
And he's French. And they what they do during the whole entire movie is they show multiple family dinners. It's like a holiday or something. Or maybe it's just a get-together where all the families, like, so Jan, I'll just call her Jan because I'm watching The Office right now.
Well, to me, she actually reminded me more of Trudy in this movie because
Well,
the whole
in a
movie,
certain way.
they were ripping off Monk where the husband keeps on seeing her ghost and talking to her, and that's like the whole movie.
Yeah,
And
but
to me, I thought that the husband in real life, Gildart, I think the reason why this movie was made was because he got jealous of seeing his wife and Monk. And so he said, I'm, and this is how he talks too, I am going to make my own version of Monk, and I am going to get to talk to your ghost. Isn't that what he sounded like?
No, because he had a British accent. He's British.
Well, I can't do a British accent because I'm not an idiot. Can you do one?
Well, I can't. I don't have a man voice, so
That
I
doesn't
can't do it.
matter.
I just because of the coughing and all that. There's no way, but I used to be able to do stuff like that. But anyway, yes, she does the Trudy thing where she's a ghost. What happens is, I guess, and this is never even shown either. They implied she died in a car wreck.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that goes on that would make you think she died of anything but a car wreck because she was driving the car and she came down the driveway and almost ran into somebody who was driving by on the street.
And he says, "You're a terrible driver, honey."
So that was like an implication that she died in a car wreck.
Because women are bad drivers. That's basically
No.
that's the story here that he went with.
No.
He wrote it.
No, okay, just
I'm not
quiet.
saying I agree with that. I'm saying that's the story here is that she's a woman, so she's a bad driver apparently. Like
I just thought she's just a bad driver, period.
that's her character
But
arc.
anyway, so, in Monk, I think Trudy is always wearing white, like a white dress, like an angel dress or something. Even in that movie, that movie they did recently, and it was on Peacock, the Monk movie, didn't she wear like a white dress? And,
Yeah.
And then all the ghosts of people who were murdered, and he had helped find, what happened to them, and put the murderer behind bars. All of them were white. They all came out on the field, and he was in the middle with her. But in this movie, she wears like a lime green dress the whole time. And that was weird. That was her ghost dress. Maybe she died in that dress. I don't know. But anyway,
Here's another bad line from the movie.
oh, good.
We're so proud of who you are and who you're always becoming, and then they show a picture of Allison Mack. Because, who she's becoming? Well, spoiler alert, this was 2009. Allison Mackey-Poo, she joined the cult in 2006.
Uh-oh.
So, she was already in the cult in this movie. And what's funny is that cult, they really prided themselves on helping out actors and artists achieve their dreams. And it's like, honestly, this is the worst movie that she's made so far out of the ones that we've watched. So, they really didn't help her at all. So, as soon as this movie came out, she should have taken a look at it and gone, okay, this cult, obviously, they didn't do anything for me, really. Except for, I don't even want to talk about it.
Whatever. we've seen what the cults can do, and they don't do anything.
And then here's another one. After the mom dies, this is one of the stupidest lines of the movie. He says, "It's the cruel end, and I'll tell you about it one time." And it's and it's like, who says that? Like, you wouldn't say one time, you would say one day, right?
Or sometime. Or
Like,
it's just
it's
weird.
the cruel end, and I'll tell you about it one time. Like, this is one of those instances where it's like, like Tommy Wiseau, or the people who wrote Troll 2, or it's like, do they know English? Like,
Well,
do they...
he's British, so he has a different way of saying things. That could be because of the being British.
I'll tell you about it one time. Like, nobody would say that, ever. So...
He's just like Kipper. If you all are familiar with Kipper the dog, which
Yeah,
is
but
British.
he's
goes,
not...
ready, steady, go.
Yeah, Kipper's not a retard. This
No.
guy, he is the most retarded character in movie history. I mean, he just walks and talks and acts like a pretentious theater actor who's
I
like,
think he's kind of like a robot.
he's high on himself,
I don't know.
you know.
I don't really want to criticize him for
But
that.
this
I
just sucks. It
it's
just
just the
sucks
movie
so
is just-
bad.
It's just not good. I don't know why they made it. Oh, except that what Marco said about him being jealous of Trudy.
I think so.
Melora.
Because he basically self-inserted himself into Muck, but without the detective stuff that made the show interesting. So...
And fun.
And then, do you want to, or I have a bunch of notes. There was one funny scene where the main guy's daughter throws a temper tantrum at this restaurant. She really wants ice cream. And then the ghost wife tells him to give her some. And he says, "No ice cream! No ice cream! What the hell do you know? You left us anyway!" And then he drags her out of there while she's crying and screaming, and he keeps on saying, "No ice cream! No ice cream!" I was like, yeah, this movie's bad.
Yeah, I guess it gave the girls who played Allison Mack's part an opportunity because they kept going back in time. It gave them all the time to act over and over again because usually what they'll do with the kid, they'll show them as a baby, then as a toddler, then as a school-age kid, then as a high school kid, and then as an adult. And you just see it one time. But because they kept going back and forth, they would show these actors again and again and again and again. So, and then, they would come to present day. It's Allison Mack. Full-blown Allison Mack. And she's the daughter. And it's a pretty big part. Although nothing happens, she meets this French guy, which is so funny because this British guy, the dad, every single family dinner, every single one, they make this thing where he doesn't like French people. He hates French people. And like I said, that's been known a long time. There's been this thing with the British and the French. What was that? Oh. And
I would like to also mention, because I have notes about specifics that went on. There is a 5-minute scene, and it is probably one of the worst scenes of the movie because of the editing. The dad is sitting in bed with his daughter, and they're eating ice cream together. And first off, he's like apologizing, and this is another problem with the movie. The sound is terrible. So in this scene, he starts off and he's like, "I'm really sorry, sweetheart. I went to Portuguese or something." And I couldn't even understand what he was saying. And then all of a sudden they're eating ice cream, and it's really weird because the picture keeps on fading in and out. So like they're eating ice cream, and then it fades out, and then it fades back in, and then it fades out over and over and over again. And it was like a movie trailer. And I was like, why are they doing that? That was terrible. And then there's a part where the dad, he's mad about his wife's death. So he like randomly breaks a window and holds his daughter hostage in the closet. And he's just like, "Leave me alone." And I was like, yeah, God, this movie's bad. Right, Safi?
yeah, well, he starts getting counseling, and really, hopefully it's a psychologist. Psychiatrists don't do anything for you unless you do the thing where, like, let's say you have multiple personality disorder. And I can't remember the name of the therapy, but only the psychiatrist do the therapy. But anyway, so he sees this woman for years, and he calls her his shrink. And then, this is weird, I've never seen this in anything I've ever watched. He ends up, and I think he marries his shrink. They do start going out together, and they have a relationship. And she agrees to it. And it's kind of implied that they get married.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not positive, but they're still together at the end of the movie. So, I don't know. That was strange too.
There's this other part where he's in the bookstore, and you know how I know he was in the bookstore with his daughter?
No.
Because he said the word book about 50 times. He said, I'm looking for this book. You know about this book? I'm going to tell you about this book. What's your favorite book? Is this the book I'm looking for? My favorite book is this. My favorite book is that. And it's literally like so bad. You could take shots and die from just him saying book like 50 times in this sequence. And that was bad too. Like, how what's the deal with that? Like,
I don't know. I was going to say you could probably take shots and you'd be drunk by the end of it.
remember that?
It's not even the whole movie. It's just a part of the movie.
Did you notice that part? He just kept saying book over and over again.
Now, I know they were talking about books because remember they were boxing everything up.
Well, no, he goes to this bookstore and he's trying to hit on this woman using his daughter, and he makes up this fake book so that she'll talk to him. And that's what he does, remember?
No.
And
I think that must have been a part where I fell asleep for about 2 minutes.
I came in the room and I saw Sophie sleeping.
Well, it wasn't for very long because I watched the rest of the movie, but I don't remember that at all. But it's like I don't care because I didn't miss anything, frankly. It's a stupid movie.
That was the woman who was lesbian.
Oh, I heard that part. She said, he said, would you like to go out? And she says, I'm gay or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear that. I just missed the first part of it.
There was a really weird sequence where they were unpacking boxes together, and it was so weirdly edited because they just had a bunch of close-up shots, and it was just like really fast, like paced, like just like 2 seconds per shot, and it was really weird. Did you notice that, Sophie?
I don't know.
I don't know, because there's not much to talk about except for this random crap that happens. Oh, here's another one. The daughter runs away when she's a defiant teenager.
She's 11. She's not a teenager. She's 11.
And she wrote him a letter, and she says, Dear Dad, I've run away because you're a real asshole sometimes. And then that plot goes nowhere because she comes back home in like 2 seconds. So that was a whole waste of time. And I completely lost interest, like, at a certain point in this movie. I was like, yeah, I literally don't give a fuck about this movie.
Pretty quickly. You can just tell it's just nothing. It's like, well, I'll say what my food review is, but... Another line
is, and now I don't want to say the whole thing because I don't want to say it in front of Safi, but he said, some guys can go out and get a ring made, and it's perfect, and everybody does something in their pants.
Oh, God.
And I don't want to say what he was referring to, but that was really cringeworthy. Like, I've never heard of that before, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also a very weird moment where all of a sudden, Allison Mack's boyfriend is allowed to see the mom's ghost. And she says, of course he can, he's French.
Yeah. I don't get that. I never heard that part.
And then you couldn't hear the rest of what she was saying because the music was so loud. that you couldn't hear it over the talking
He was actually a nice
or
boy.
the music.
The guy who played the French boyfriend, and I guess they got married too, so it turns out to be her husband.
Yeah, they get married at the end of the movie, and he gives the speech where he repeats that cringeworthy line from the beginning of the movie where he says, "Darling, I loved you as a yummy infant, a testing toddler, a defiant teenager, and now as a magnificent young woman who's a part of a sex cult."
He didn't say that part, but
Well, that's what he should have said.
well, they might not have known anything about it.
And then the movie ended with Jan singing, and
Yeah, it's her singing. That's something too. She did pretty well.
but that felt like very characteristic of Jan. Like if Jan made a movie, that's what she would do. She would end it with her singing.
Yeah, because I don't think Trudy ever did anything like that.
There was also like a weird 1 second sex scene where they're having sex for literally 1 second and then it cut away. And it was really weird and it didn't make any sense. Just completely out of nowhere. So yeah, this movie sucked.
So I hope everybody saw the eclipse, because if you saw the eclipse or the eclipse, then you saw more of something happening than you did in this movie.
Oh.
So,
Well, one excuse that I've heard, which I just think is bullshit, is that they didn't have a budget. They didn't have any money to make a movie.
and that's just BS, and we know because we have seen a lot of movies of all different stripes. In other words,
Yeah.
some had big budgets, some had tiny budgets.
Wood Chipper Massacre.
But we've seen a ton of movies with big budgets, like extraordinarily huge budgets, and they didn't do anything.
The problem here is the story, or lack thereof, and the terrible... I mean, I really do not like the main guy at all. I hate him.
Well, I like them, but to me, it's almost like they got to do this because... I don't know. I mean, other people wouldn't even get the chance. This is what drives me crazy about movies today.
Well, that's not necessarily true. These they gave themselves this chance, probably.
But still, just the fact that we could rent it and watch it.
Yeah.
Just some people never get the opportunity, and they might make something really good. They might do something really good, but you get this, and this is nothing. This is almost like it's like a pretentious thing. I can't describe it.
It's very pretentious because it's basically like airing out their thoughts in public, like, or something like the act of like people seeing them act out their real life is like attractive to them or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's weird.
But I think we should end the review.
Well, the last thing that I'll say before I give my food review is that, like, the movie, there was no chance for this movie to be good in the first place because there was no initial concept or idea that was worth exploring.
And they could have done more with her being a ghost. Like a ghost in Mrs. Muir, only they would do it a reverse of it.
Yeah.
And because I've seen I think it's a Hallmark movie where the husband died, which would be another Ghost in Mrs. Muir, I guess, where the man is dead. And she kept picking up his voice, like if you turn the radio on in a certain part that's usually static, he would come on, and she had a child, and anyway, she meets somebody. But I mean, it really was a pretty good story. I mean, Hallmark movies, like we've mentioned in millions of times, they're kind of a dime a dozen because they make way too many, and they're not quality. If they made fewer and had more quality, it would be a lot better. But if you make too many, they lose their effectiveness. And this one dealt with something like this. But you didn't see the ghost; you just heard the voice on a radio, on usually a static station. So anyway, like I said, they could have done more with that and really made it probably a fun, interesting, intriguing, mysterious story. And it's just almost like, well, he didn't want to do that. He just wanted to show that their love and that she doesn't really love Monk or Michael from The Office. She loves him. That's her husband. And it's just queer.
This whole movie is queer. It is the definition of queer.
So anyway, that's all. I'm sorry. All I have to say. I can't even believe her real name is Melora, which I wonder if that really is her real name. Like it's not something she came up with as like a stage name, like many actors of the past. And I guess the present too will make up a name because what they have. Like I think what's her name? The one who played in Dorothy in Wizard of Oz. She had a weird, like a plain old name, and she changed it.
Well, they used to do that a lot back then, but they don't really do that anymore because if they do, the actresses pretend like it's discrimination or something. So Thandie Newton.
Who?
Thandie Newton.
Who? I don't know.
Thandie Newton.
No.
Well, she used to be Thandie Newton. Well, now apparently she had a W in her name, and she tried to pretend that by Hollywood forcing her to take the W out that was discrimination against her because because you think about it, like Thandui Newton is a terrible name, but Thandie Newton is a much better name. So like, yeah.
I don't know. Some people change their names because they just don't like it personally, and they think that they can come up with something and it's a lot more interesting when you hear it.
It's not discrimination for Hollywood to want to give someone a more appealing name.
No, it's
stage
probably
name.
Better because you might remember the person better if they have a catchy name. So, I mean, I wish I could remember what Judy Garland was trying to think of from Wizard of Oz, what her real name was. And even I think Marilyn Monroe had a different name. But, these are people from the past. So.
Well, Jesse Ventura, that wasn't his real name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you can see, headache. Looking through those eclipse glasses gave me a headache, and then this movie made it worse. Ugh.
Well, what's your food review for you?
Well, I just, I'm sorry. You could say it's macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese is good.
Yeah.
And it's cheesy and tasty, and like on a cold day, it hits the spot. So this movie doesn't hit the spot. So what I thought of right away, and it's really weird. I just think it's corn syrup.
Ugh.
Because it's not really even a dish that you can eat. You wouldn't eat corn syrup on its own. The only time I've thought that I've seen you use corn syrup, which I'm sure there's multiple dishes that I'm just not aware of, is pecan pie. I think you use dark corn syrup for that, because I've made that a few times, but it's been a long, long time, because it's very rich pie. It's like, I don't know, about 500 calories a slice, but it is good. Boy, if you can make it, it's good, but I'm talking about, there's two corn syrups. There's a dark one and a clearish one, and this movie's the clear corn syrup, and it's just not even a dish, because there's no story. It's just, I think it's just this guy, like Marco said, he got upset about his wife being Monk's love interest, and then she's Michael's love interest on The Office, and I think he got a little upset about it, and he wanted to show who her real lover is.
Yeah.
So, and that's it, because there's no story. And I don't even know, do they have kids?
Probably. Yeah, I think they said they used them for when they were one of the ages. So
I wondered about that.
maybe it was when they were a defiant teen,
Or one of those toddler or a baby.
a testing toddler,
Or the baby. Yummy baby or whatever you say.
yummy infant.
Oh, yummy infant. So what's your food review? I can't wait to hear.
Well, I give it a stale cake that's like been there for
yeah.
like a month, and you put ice cream on it that's entirely melted to try to make it better, and it just makes it worse because nobody likes soupy ice cream. So that's this movie. It's just there's nothing here. Like this might be like the worst movie of the year or one of the top worst movies because I would much rather watch Wood's Witch again before watching this movie again. I would never watch this movie again, ever. Ever. I would be curious, though, since Safi suddenly fell asleep.
I'm falling asleep.
I would be curious, Pam from The Office, she was married to James Gunn at one point, and she made her own little movie, and I think it was like another kind of romance drama or something, and I'm curious to see if that movie was any good, because it'd just be funny to see, I don't know, people from The Office trying to make their own movies. That's the thing with like all these TV shows where they just want to end everything in 2 seconds, is like a lot of these actors, they're never going to get like major roles again, and the TV shows were their last chance.
Oh, I know. In the movie, Meredith from The Office was in it.
Yeah, she showed up.
I've never seen her in anything else.
I know.
She played an airport worker where she worked at the desk, and you have to check in.
Well, the lesbian woman too?
Yeah.
She's in one of the later Office seasons as a character. She plays a really nasty character, so
I thought that was interesting, and it wasn't a very long role, but she did a good job.
And I was kind of sad because I thought as soon as she was on screen, I thought I'm interested in her because she's better acting, more interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So anyway, that's it, everybody. So if you like this review, give it a thumbs up and become one of our...
And please don't ever call someone a yummy infant or a testing toddler or a defiant teenager, or I will punch you in the face. I'm serious.
Yeah, I had 2 infants, 2 toddlers. I had the both, and I never called them...
I don't even think Jeffrey Epstein would call an infant yummy.
Ugh.
Right.
So anyway, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.